Hello, everyone, and welcome back to those who were here earlier today, and welcome to those who arrived just now. Welcome to Terminal B on behalf of Pikene. My name is Astrid Fadnes, and I'm not going to say so much now, but I just wanted to welcome the last participants and also welcome our digital participants who are already attending online. So we're running a little bit late here. That's a part of organizing a seminar, I guess. Yeah, warmly welcome to everyone. And on behalf of Pikene, I just wanted to say a few words before I pass on the microphone to Jasmina to introduce the seminar and herself. I just wanted to clarify, there's been some question about the shelf with the magazines and publications in the back. There are those who are those that are for sale. There should be a price on it, and you can take contact with me or someone else from Pikene to buy it. There are also some publications that are for free. For example, the Arctic Art newspaper, which is going to be launched today. Very exciting. And also the Pigeon Grant publication, the blue one you see there in the back. As far as it goes, it's also you can also take one home. That will also have its first physical launch very soon. I'm sorry that I'm speaking with my back to the rest of you here. Their collective, you will very soon be introduced. And then there is also many issues of Caltio, the magazine in which Paavo, here in the back, is the editor. He doesn't want to take any money for it, so that is also at least some editions that there are several of you can take. And the other one you can, of course, read in as much as you want while you're here. Then there's also this book, very nice book of the illustrator Alexander Florensky. And we have decided that we would like to give it to all the seminar participants as a gift from us in Pikene. It was, came through as a Pikene project some years ago that you will find in the lower part of the shelf. So a little gift from us. And in addition to that, we also have T-shirts. Ingrid there in the very back is now organizing some Broen Spectacle T-shirts that we have also several editions of. And Ingrid, do you want to say something? Vintage merch in the Terminal B shop for free. Yeah, no pressure, just a little bit to bring some merch home. Yes, so that was the little Pikene propaganda from or commercial from our side, and then Jasmina, I'm very glad you are finally here. So I will pass on the microphone to you. So on behalf of Troms and Finnmark County Council, Jasmina, I think everyone knows you here, but I will still let you introduce yourself and the seminar properly. So welcome to you too.
Thank you, Astrid. Hi, my name is Jasmina Bosniak. I'm an advisor for arts in Troms and Finnmark County Council. First I will give some practical information about food. The dinner that will be served in the hotel, and also lunch here and lunch tomorrow, and dinner here tomorrow, is free for all participants who have registered. And alcohol you would have to buy yourself, because we don't serve alcohol at county council's events. Francisca, if you have something more? Astrid mentioned that about the magazines, and that's also the reason why we're here. The Troms and Finnmark County Council, we have had international projects in the Barents region for many, many years. We have guest studio in Tromsø and also in Vadsø, residencies for artists, and mostly we've had artists from our region and also from elsewhere, but the focus have been the northern areas, Sweden, Finland, and Northwest Russia. And until the pandemics, there was active artist exchange and workshops. That we as a project owners were kind of made things possible and also worked with the funding and administration of these projects. And when the pandemic started, we had to rethink everything because people couldn't travel. So many of the projects turned into online versions of themselves, and that actually opened up for some interesting new things to do. Of course, now after the war started in February this year, the situation has changed dramatically, I think, for everyone who lives in this region. And I think also that the work we have done here, that I'm very, very proud of all of you who have worked with these two publications almost in secret, meeting online and putting these things together is also part of the peace work and bringing people together. And those are also values that the council stands for. We have people here today from a big group from Luleå, from Kiruna, from Lainio in northern Sweden, also from Finland, from Rovaniemi, from Oulu, from Joensuu, from Leknes i Lofoten, from Vadsø, and also Stine from Denmark. When Stine joined the project, she was based in Nuuk and was working at the Nuuk Art Museum. So they are part of the Pigeon Graham Collective. They will introduce themselves. And also this other publication that we're launching today, and that will be also available online, Arctic Art Newspaper. We've had 3 editors, Anastasia Pazzi in St. Petersburg, Paavo Heinonen in Oulu, and Marion Bouvier in Tromsø, and they met also online. We had open call for artists in the Arctic region and received about 120 submissions, and out of those, around 30 were selected, also in collaboration with our local and regional partners who forwarded and recruited people to apply. I also want to mention one thing, that all artists who have contributed, who have been selected, have received a fee for their submission, because that was also our way to support the artists during the pandemics when many lost possibilities to work. And so in this publication, there are artists presented and curators and writers from Canada, Greenland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, Finland, Iceland. I think we don't have any Americans, although there also I have Alaska in the Arctic. Okay, so I would now like to give word to Nina Schönsby, who have together with Halvor Haugen from Textbyrå worked. They created this concept of Pigeon Graham Collective, and we helped gather these writers from 4 different countries, 5. And I'm very happy. We worked with Nina and Halvor before on developing art criticism in Troms. It has been a very successful project, and I think they have done an amazing job. And I think they maybe it was not so difficult with these good writers that you had to work with. But thank you so much. Halvor couldn't be with us today, but we're happy that Nina arrived, and Sylvia, Lena, Astrid, Stine, and Amanda are here, and Emma and Olga are present online, I think. Yes, Olga is in Syktyvkar and Emma in Petrozavodsk. And Maria Dorofeeva from Arkhangelsk unfortunately couldn't make it this afternoon, but you can read her text. Hello. So first, they will speak for the first time together while in the same room, and then after the break, Anastasia, Marion, and Pavo will also have a conversation. Okay, thank you, Lena.
Thank you so much, Jasmina, and thank you, Pikene, for having us here. It's wonderful to be here. Amazing to meet face to face with you. And I can say a little bit about a plan for this conversation. First, I will give you a very brief introduction to the idea and the collective's background. And then we will tell you a little bit about our experiences from this writing group. And then we will read, we will do some shared reading, and all of us will write from the texts in this publication. And this publication, this is the first edition of the publication. It was green. And yes, thank you, Astrid. And it also came with a special edition by Mondo Books. It's printed in risoprint by Mario Bouvier, who's here today. There you are. Thank you so much. And when it was, well, sold out, no copies left, so we had to print a second edition, and that one is blue. So it's green and coral pink and blue. And this publication contains, is a collection of 10 texts written by members of the Pitch and Ground Collective. And Astrid presented us briefly. I will just mention all the names because there are few of us not here as well. So it's, Lena. And it is Elise Sønderland from Bodø, she's not here. And it is Emma, you were there with us, Emma. And it is Anna. She's not here right now, but maybe she will join online. Yeah. And then it is Amanda and Stine and Astrid, of course, and Maria Dorofeeva, who is in Arkhangelsk, and Olga, she's with us. Hello. And Sylvia, of course. When Halvor and I got the opportunity to have this writing project, our wish was to establish a collective that could maybe work for a longer period of time, not only for one writing course, but establish some connections and a collective that could collaborate together. And we also had a strong wish of making a publication to make the texts visible and available for a lot of people. And our method was actually to meet online, yeah? And it was, well, we met online quite often, and well, for a period of half a year first. And we developed text together. All the participants got, kind of writing exercises where we were to write texts that first told about our immediate surroundings, local situations, and then choose an object of art or architecture, and then to zoom out and connect local situations to a broader political connection or context. So that was the idea, that these essays that you now find in a publication was developed over a long period of time. First 3 parts, and then some of them blended together into one essay. And what was really important for us was to stress that art criticism can be so various. I mean, it can be very experimental. And I think the texts here show that art criticism can be, both very, very experimental and free, and also playful and serious. So we wanted to kind of push that genre. And I think, you can read yourself, but I think these texts are so interesting and shows also very different viewpoints from different parts of the Arctic region. Yes, I can say a few words about the name. Pigeon Gram Collective. You know, the pigeons back in the old days, they brought mail. So the pigeon gram is actually the mail that the pigeons brought. And you can also, I don't know whether you have seen those triangle stamps. You could buy those triangle stamps when you were posting pigeon grams. And we chose that name because pigeons brought mail across borders. The borders were not important for them, of course. And that is that mirrors our group, because we have worked across borders and have contact, establishing friendship across borders. Yes, and you can also just mention that Halvor, my colleague, has designed the magazine, and also he has drawn the pigeon here on the front page. And it is also a lot of nice images inside the magazine, which all the members have collected themselves. Yes, maybe we now can open the word and share with you some experiences from our process. Shall I give you the microphone and you can maybe start?
Yes, this has been a really, really fruitful and fun and an experience that have definitely brought me on a new road in writing, because of and I think also Nina and Halvor made the group feel really safe, so we could generously share our texts. So it was, it's been amazing, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would also say that during the pandemic, it was a quite tough period. So we were all stuck inside the houses. And so the whole project and the meetings were a breath of air for every one of us. So thank you.
Yeah, maybe we should take a little tour. Yes, maybe I can add on to that because I really agree. It has been a very nice experience, and especially in the pandemic, and to be able to create both this safe and also create this space online, which is quite extraordinary, I would say. It's because obviously meeting physically, then I think it facilitates much easier the creativity and the sharing of ideas. So that was a really good experience. And then I also need to add that it's I felt like a historical moment today when we are all, not all, but some of us, some online and some missing, but to some of us to meet physically. And also it's especially nice for me to kind of have you here at in my hometown, the Kirkenes, which it has become since I moved, since I participated the Pigeongram. I lived in Tromsø at that time, so I feel like Pigeongram Collective, you have kind of also joined that personal journey. So yeah, even only getting to know you online, and also experiencing how writing, and not least to read, have loud readings of what you have written, it's also can be a very personal experiences. It can be a political experience, a creative one. Yeah, so I'm also very grateful for the initiative, and looking forward to the rest of the journey.
Yes, I can only agree. Yes, I think I can add that working with art in Nuuk, you're kind of part of Europe and you're not part of Europe, and you're kind of beside it all. And it's nice to connect, especially with the North here, because it's kind of the same themes, the same thoughts that yeah, we share, or according to art, and working with art, writing, and so on. So yeah, I think it was really nice and really thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think this collective somehow showed the fact that always you are somehow stronger together. Or like, I just remember this really warm feeling in the deep pandemic, always like thinking the texts and having the meetings, and really dark winter mornings between Tervola and Tornio, and just yeah, this collective, I think it has gave a lot for me, at least personally. Yeah.
Shall we give the word to Olga first?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. I remember I saw the announcement in the Russian social network in a public group of the Consulate General of Norway in St. Petersburg. And at that point, I had no idea about art criticism. And my background is not in art and it's not in criticism. But I thought, what the heck? I want to do something meaningful in a multicultural group. And I was so lucky you accepted me. And I'm happy that our publication will join our National Library, and it will be soon in our catalog.
Thank you so much, Olga. And shall we pass the word to Emma?
Yes, hello everyone. Well, there's a stereotype that all people from the north are so-called frozen, and personally, me, I am not an easygoing person, and it's really hard for me to begin communicating, especially online. But thanks to all of you, to all the pigeon grammars, as Nina called us, and I really like this word. It was easy for me to not only to write, but to communicate and to talk freely, not thinking about the borders and not thinking about difference in languages. So thank you for accepting me and for that chance to work and collaborate in such a good environment.
So warming those feedbacks and what you say. Thank you so much. Also, just reflected on how amazing it was to meet now, because when you write together, you get to know each other. It was a very warm and open atmosphere in our meetings, and I kind of feel that I know you. But in another way, we haven't met physically, so it was a kind of it was amazing to meet you for the first time. Yeah, some of you. I think we maybe, if some want to add something, just tell me. Otherwise, I think we can now move on to the shared reading, just to show you a little bit, give a glimpse of these texts that we have written. And then we decided that Lena should start. Shall I hold the microphone for you?
Maybe that would be. Thank you. So, yes, language and my regenerated tale. And this is part of a text on language, of course, but also on an art experience at the Havre Magasinet's exhibition Språk, language. As an artist, I find it hard to problematize and visualize language issues. To me, language is language, filled with letters and words. I have not been able to tear myself away from the syllables when trying to work with questions on language myself. Water, maybe. Yes. I have not been able to tear myself away from the syllables when trying to work with questions on language myself. Coming from the Tornio Valley and the minority group of Tornedalians, I have a bilingual background, so the topic is very important to me. At this exhibition, I met Johanna Gustafsson Fürst's sculpture, The Mother Tongue. The sculpture hung brightly lit, free-floating in a dark part of the room. Parts of bentwood furniture were combined with birch twigs and gnarled branches. The joints were visible and obvious, sometimes simple and natural, and sometimes the pieces were forced together almost to the breaking point. Some of the twigs were sanded down. Hours of hard work had smoothened the surface and some of the worst bumps. The sculpture seemed to twist around itself, where disciplined and undisciplined parts were supposed to form a common body. The proper and constructed, in symbiosis with the organically growing. I was overwhelmed by how strong this sculpture describes both the lack and the longing for my mother tongue, my Kieli, and how it told the story about forcing people into a new language, whether it is the national language or a language that confirms class or status. This artwork represented, or rather embodied, my emotions and experiences with language.
Thank you so much. And that was, you read the middle part of the text, yeah. So people can read more in the magazine, yeah. Yes. And then we would like to ask Emma, maybe you can read a part of your text?
Yeah, of course. As part of Northern identity, I think that in large scale, the Northern identity is determined by the nature, by the surrounding, and my inspiration was in this part of my text is described. I stand on the south shore of the chilly Northern Bay and I watch. There is the reflecting water surface of the second biggest lake in Europe. To the north, beyond it, there are artificial constructions looking recognizable and effortless in transparent air. However, in the fight with the mist, human traces fade and the mysterious cosmos of cold water conceals everything. To the east, there are two soaring islands and infinite water behind them, pure blue or pale gray, depending on the mood of those who rule above. So, and after such an inspiration, I found such words of Vladimir Nabokov. Fancy is fertile only when it is futile. And I completely agree with it. And in the last part of my text, I just described this thing. In a world full of rationalism and skepticism, belief in wizardry is crucial. Grown-ups are supposed to be serious and analytical individuals with their inspiration dried up and their imagination hidden deep. But what if the veil of numbness and insensibility vanishes as the midnight mist wanes at dawn? Open our minds and restore the creative paradise that neglects bounds and self-restraints. It's time to bond with the magic within. So, well, I think that it's the main result for me is that I tried to find the magic within me and to try to express it in the words.
Thank you so much, Emma. That's really nice to hear your voice again. And then we would like to read Amanda's text. And I say we because she wrote a play. Yeah, there are different roles. So we all have to find her text. Yeah, we have.
We're using both microphones.
Working now, maybe. Yeah. Okay, just maybe a small word about the text. So it's written as a play script, a theater script. I personally enjoy reading movie and theater scripts, but I also think that our life is very performative and we are having different kind of roles and building different kind of sets. And I think it's cute and beautiful, and that's life. So in this play, which is called An Iconic Object, 5 pictures about canons and areas in between, I'm talking not too seriously about Finland and Finnish design and Finnish art, and maybe criticizing it or not. And this play has 2 characters and also a choir. So we are going also to be a choir here soon. Yeah, so we will read a short part of it, two small parts. And maybe should I remind who we are in the play? Yeah. So there is a parenthesis in the first, and that's Sylvia, right? Yeah, and then there's the person 1, and that's Lena. And then choir, it's the choir of pigeongrams. And then it's the second chapter, and then Stine is the parenthesis reader. It's also here. This is also a parenthesis. And I will be the person 2. And shall we pass the mics? Maybe it's good, we don't need to hurry. Yeah, okay, super. Yeah. So Sylvia can start.
Picture 1, an afternoon, a table, a very normal table, a very normal chair. Everything is normal here. Everything is very normal and safe. Everything is clean and safe and boring, sometimes expensive.
Here we are drinking our morning coffee around this table every morning and midday and afternoon. From our Moomin mugs, everyone is having their own Moomin mug. 5-year-old Pekka and 95-year-old Pekka are each having their own Moomin mug. They got them as a birthday and Christmas and wedding and graduation and Father's Day and welcome and goodbye gift. It is safe and right like that. I drink my coffee every day, 365 days a year, from the Moomin Papa mug, the black one here, a mug. Classical icon, iconic object, canonized canons.
I would really like to talk with someone.
Would you like to have a coffee?
Picture 2a, an afternoon. This is Finland, and the table is by Alvar Aalto. He is, and then he was, and then he is. The chair and the table are made by him, and the company where the chair and the table come from is called Artek. This is where all the tables and chairs come from in Finland. It is safe and beautiful and boring. Finland and tables, Finland and chairs.
A tree-led stool we all know, and a table with a white surface which we all know. I still feel so bad because as a child I used to hate this Aalto stool and table. At preschool, it was absolutely the worst I knew. The firmness of the furniture, there was no space for adventure with it. It was just a normal table and a normal chair, the same ones as in the hospital or later on at school. And the Iittala glassbirds were the worst. I wanted to drop every single one of them down from the window board. I hate them so deeply. Why have something so unpractical, a glass bird? Now I'm walking in the street and I'm looking at the windows. Silent Finnish homes with Marimekko curtains and those glass birds looking out towards us from the window. Also, I was taught, if meeting a stranger and if she or he is wearing Marimekko, they cannot be evil. You can always trust a person wearing a Finnish clothing brand Marimekko. This is the truth, the absolute truth.
Classical icon, iconic object, canonized canons.
Picture 2b, an afternoon. This is Finland, and the table is by Alvar Aalto. He was, and then he is. The chair and the table are by him, and the company where the chair and the table come from is called Artek. This is where all the tables and chairs come from in Finland. It is safe and beautiful and boring. Finland and tables, Finland and chairs.
When I got my first salary ever, I bought 2 Aaltos chairs 66. And after 2 chairs, I could build my life as a fully independent person in Finland. This is what I knew even though no one told it to me. A salary, a chair, a clean white room, a clear form.
Chair 66, designer Alvar Aalto, year 1935. Its visible, additive construction logic is full of character and pleasing to the eye. The wide backrests offer comfort and flexibility, while the finished birch used to make the chair is both durable and lightweight.
Chair by chair, muck by muck, we create our life as it should be. The objects are becoming bigger and more expensive every year. This is how we build our lives, our homes, and this very tiny world. And I support the story of these canons, filling my life with those objects, creating an illusion of normal life with them, filling the gaps with them, and falling in love with them. I still feel there is something beautiful and at the same time horrifying about it.
Clear form,
Clear surface, equality for everyone.
Time is passing and I just don't get what it is.
Some more coffee.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was nice hearing that play again. Then we can move on, and I will give the word to Stina.
Yes, just a few words about the text. I have worked for a lot of years with interviews and articles, and I thought it was about time to interview myself. So this is an interview with myself. And also it came from that I moved to Greenland, to Nuuk, in 2015. And as a Dane, you come with a colonial luggage, which you can't escape. So when I started writing art criticism, I often used the interview because I was trying not to be another Dane describing Greenland, because a lot of Danes has come to Greenland and described Greenland. So that was kind of a way to get other voices represented. Yes, so I turned this interview towards myself. We sat across from each other, her and I, in the sofa and in the rocking chair with our sides to the big window facing the fjord, recording the conversation on my phone. There was just one question I wanted to ask. She didn't look directly at me while answering the question, but didn't avoid it either. She constantly paused, looked out the window, corrected herself, juggling with the words, tumbling with the question over and over again, thinking along as she spoke. I let her think and talk and interrupted as little as possible, as the New York journalist Guy Talese would do. I did not immediately replace an answer with a question. I stayed quiet as he would, a trick to make people go beyond the usual narrative or ways of saying. I asked the question, I kept quiet and tried to listen. Can you tell me why you are here? I have lived 5 summers in Greenland. Every summer the roads are being repaved in Nuuk, in Danish Inuk. Reminds me of the Greenlandic word Inuk. Inuk means man or human being. Qaslunaaq originally meant stranger or people from outside. Today it means being Danish. And said in a specific way it can be condescending, Qaslunaaq. But it goes both ways, both Danes and Greenlanders. Galak can be said the other way round. So I am Qaslunaaq. I moved from Denmark to Greenland. I am told I am Danish, but what does that mean? Basically a passport, a place, and speaking a language. But basically is not the whole picture. As a Dane, I carry a history. I was a colonizer of this land. I occupy space. My apartment, my office chair, and I write. Writing is also occupying space, but that is really not the answer. I'm not here to occupy. Sorry, could we start over? Could you please ask me again? Why are you here? You might ask what I left behind. 1,000 things. Things I miss, things I do not miss at all. Life can be lived in many ways. I do not believe in utopias. Denmark certainly isn't one, and Greenland certainly neither. But anyway, I moved here, so let's talk about Greenland. Greenland is exotic. It is a tale, a narrative, told by many. Yngvar Storkø, an artist, makes this series of artworks called Arctic Exotic. She is working with photography, collage, and drawing in what she calls digital photo collages. In Arctic Exotic, she mixes African animals of the savanna with Greenlandic nature, urban landscapes, and old photographs of Greenlanders. In the work Zebratica, my own zebra, who brings together a photography taken around 1900 of a Greenlandic woman dressed traditionally with a hairnet on top of her head and the image of a zebra. The lady rides a zebra.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I can also add that in the publication, all of the pigeon grammars have also answered a questionnaire in a way. Yeah, so it's a short interview with all the writers in the magazine as well. Yes, and then we can give the word to Astrid.
Thank you. Yeah, just shortly introducing the text. We were asked the first task we got, I think it was the first task we got on the first workshop meeting with the collective was to imagine or to have our immediate surroundings as the starting point for the text. And my background is I'm educated in an architect, so I chose to also use an architectural object as the starting point and what my text surrounds around, and also the specific architectural object, which is the window pane, is also during the pandemics. It was the only, or at least if you were in a quarantine during the pandemics, the only connecting point between you and the outside world, except for internet, of course, but the only physical connection. So the window, the text is called The Window Pane and the Three Realities. It is both a separator and a mediator, the window pane, separating and mediating two realities. The one I live within, my office space, with its heat and smell, with its walls, ceiling and floor, its furniture and office supplies, facilitating both activity and mess. And on the other hand, the one I observe through it, the lighthouse on the long pier, stretching out into the sea, in between the forested mountains, the roads and the dock, the fishing boats and the sailboats, the birds and the eternal wind, making the rain whip hard against the window glass. Its transparent surface separates the dry and the wet, the warm and the cold, the constructed and the organic, human and nature. It is hard and fragile and mediates the sounds, not only the whipping rain. I cannot see the wind, but I follow it as it changes directions and strength, bringing white foam to the wave tops and a whizzing sound whenever I take my headphones off. The window glass separates and mediates the two realities and supports the third, the imagined one, leading me through seaweed and into the underwater streams, up the mountaintop, and finally to the rocking position behind the wheel of the fishing boat. The rain whips me inside again to the dry side of the now blurred surface, brings me back to my lived reality, reminding me how ridiculously easily I get seasick.
Thank you so much, Astrid. I could just visualize it in my mind. Great to hear. And can we give the word to Olga?
Sure. My text is called The Old, the New, and the Inevitable. And I start a walk in a very quiet part of the city where old countryside, traditional log houses, Komi log houses still remain. And I know that soon they will be wiped out, demolished, and optimistic false urban architecture will replace them. So I start contemplating about the old and what's in the future. And then I walk into the art gallery, the best place for contemplation, of course. And I start thinking about the relationship between old masters and young painters. And I kind of attack young artists because they also escape reality. They escape into their easels and palettes and kind of grow a thick skin and forget that reality is screaming at you as Edward Munch's Scream. And then I think about an artist who's very famous in Komi. Quote, reality is about the inevitable. We lean on the past, looking into the future, but avoid talking about the inevitable, about now. One artist who effectively managed to patch up the difference between the real and painted world was Vasily Kandinsky. At some point, Kandinsky just dropped endless copying of what the eye could see and plunged into abstraction. Wikipedia brands him as the pioneer of abstract art, an artistic and spiritual theorist. He's a big deal here in Komi. Supposedly, the spiritual revolution occurred in him in May 1889, while Kandinsky, a student of law and economics, traveled to our northern province as part of an ethnographic research group and found himself fascinated and inspired by the Komi-Syrian culture and beliefs. His travels to Ussisolsk, Ust-Kulom, and Kirchomia were no less than a spiritual journey. Kandinsky's diary from that trip, sketchy and chaotic, is a poem of self-retreat, self-analysis, and self-discovery. Yet it's the anatomy of the strange beauty that he encountered in the interiors of Komi huts, where domestic objects, stoves, benches, tables, hand tools, were covered with sweeping cryptic ornaments in colors brimful of symbolic meaning. He entered a Komi hut as if he entered a picture. It was a sensation of being within. Today, Kandinsky's diary is kept in the graphic art collection of the Centre Pompidou in Paris. It was acquired from his widow, Nina Kandinsky, in 1981. It's from that year that the researchers started exploring the origin of his artistic style and vision. I do not know what's left of the spirit of the place 130 years later. Even in 1889, Kandinsky complained that few traces of the indigenous culture of the Komi Voiter or Komi people could be found. Today, at least traditional Komi houses have survived in the countryside, if we assume that it was on account of these houses and their interiors that the miracle occurred. Can we repeat the miracle? However, Vasily Kandinsky made a few interesting observations regarding the Komi-Syrian outlook. Talking with Syrian people, fishing for scraps of ancient folklore, remnants of old beliefs. Recording his findings in his diary, Kandinsky revealed the essential feature of the Syrian worldview, their focus on the afterlife, death as the central event of life. How more pagan can you get? Among other things, Komi-Syrians believed in a parallel reality where you could meet your double. Mort, a Komi word for man, Ort is a Komi word for the man's double that reveals oneself to a person or the person's family only when it's time to go, time to say goodbye to the world of the living. A painting is another parallel reality where you will inevitably meet your double. the reflection of yourself across the painted surface, whether you are an artist or an onlooker. Beware of what you see, be grateful for what you see. And let me also quote part of the last question of my interview when you asked us to tell something that is important to us in our own native language. So I will repeat that. Любовь, правда, свобода и мир. That is love, truth, freedom, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olga. Nice to hear you. You can also see Kandinsky's notebooks as illustrations in the publication. Yes, and now we can give the word to Silvia.
Thank you. Yes, thanks. Yeah, I will give you some words about the text too. I've sent a letter from Norrbotten from Luleå, but then suddenly Luleå became quite naturally Norrbotten. I started writing the text while I was in a lunch break. In my previous work, I was working in archive library, and it was a very silent place. But then suddenly the whole building started to pop into my head as a metaphor for the region. Norrbotten that has a lot of contradictions still today. And I had chosen another part of this text, but then this morning Astrid talked about a little bit of the history of Kirkenes. So I thought it was quite nice also stating those similarities. We talked also about Barents region as a whole region with a lot of connections. And I think I already found one with this mining industry impacting a lot on the history of territory. So I will read a part of the point 3, which is the last one in my text. And it's called Art Raises Its Voice. In Norrbotten, art doesn't speak just for itself. It's not just art for art's sake, l'art pour l'art. It's not just an aesthetic tantrum. Art takes the mic, raises its voice and talks, for me, for you, for the whole society. Or better, for those who want to listen. Will you listen? Can you hear it? Norrbotten's art nowadays has a verve that got lost in most places. Places where the exhibition system and the art market have ingurgitated and assimilated authenticity. Here, we might live in the periphery of the world, as they say, but the engagement and the genuineness of the arts are intact. I admire the involvement the artists show and the efforts they put in creating meaningful expressions, in finding appropriate verses, in building and sending proper messages, in mirroring the naked reality we live in. He's speaking the truth, no filters needed. Let me tell you about 2 different art projects where this comes to the fore. And I will read just apart from the first. The second one is about Anders Suna, if you want to continue then. For example, Norra Kollektivet, from mining to art. Again, we found ourselves in Norrbotten, Gällivare municipality, and even more closely, just outside the open pit copper mine of Aitik, owned by a company called Boliden, and put in production in 1968, for your information. The mine has been active since then. What does it mean that a mining site is active? It means mineral extractions, territorial impoverishing, and nature exploitation. Finding a new disruptive balance, plus being an open pit mine implies digging a hole, a big one. If you compare historical and current maps, you will see the difference. You will understand the impact caused by the industrialization of this land. Norra Kollektivet, that consists of the 3 artists, Fanny Karinasdotter, Thomas Örn, and Anja Örn, has focused on this mine and its implications in their art practice. Together, they identified a place, Aitik, a time, present, an issue. The encounter clash between nature and industry. And they have formulated a question. Where does the nature cease to be nature, and where does the memory of the cultural landscapes end up? Their work started 4 years ago and continues with those principles in mind. Even if I have never been there, I can clearly picture myself standing right by this giant pit, one of Europe's largest open pit copper mines, actually, as Wikipedia meticulously reports. I am looking at this empty plot of land, a series of oversized steps suitable to giants, while the wind is whipping my hair against my face, redundantly, infinitely.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Sylvia. Yes, now you've heard, all of us present sharing texts, and the rest is here for you to read. I think we can open up for any questions, maybe. Yeah, if some of you have questions, please don't hesitate to speak out. While you're thinking about a question, I can just add something. I just wanted to mention it. This magazine belongs to the tradition of self-publishing, which I just wanted to emphasize. Because, well, I, of course, as the rest of the group, hope for more magazines from the Pigeon Graham Collective. And because it is a self-published magazine, well, that gives us a lot of freedom. When you practice self-publishing, you have the freedom to define what to say and in what way you want to say it. And that is amazing. And it is a very positive thing. But I just also want to bring in some thoughts about how, well, this process of self-publishing also needs support, also needs people working, well, there's a lot of work in different processes of the magazine. So therefore, we are really grateful for instance, Troms og Finnmark fylkeskommune, who has printed it. Yeah, that one. Yeah, and the green one. Yeah. So and of course Barents. Yeah, who have Barents Kult. Yeah, who has given us the opportunity, and that is, well, that is really important because it's easy to be really enthusiastic, but I also know from running an independent publishing house, Tekstbyrået, that it takes a lot of work to do self-published magazines. So I just wanted to mention it. Mm. Yeah, anyone wanted to say
maybe
something?
Is it working? Yeah. Maybe it's nice to add that we also did really tiny self-publishing, sending postcards to each other,
Yeah.
which are not here. So we were having really tiny publications, which are now in private collections.
Yes,
Actually.
exactly. Yeah, because we couldn't meet each other, so we thought it was a good idea to send postcards to each other, something physical. So that was also an important part of the project. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about how you structured the content inside? So did you have any idea or any vision of how you want to guide the reader through the text, or was it intuitive, or did it just magically get together?
Yeah, I can just mention it. It is structured in the way that it is presented in alphabetical order, just opposite. So we start with Lena Yeah, ylpia. Yeah. So, and then it is structured with the questionnaire first, and then images and text together. So that is the way we have structured it. Anyone want to add something to that? Olga? Yes, sorry.
I think the question was about whether there is a common structure for all our essays also. And this is really when we start from something very close, nearby, from your neighborhood, from your office, from what you see every day. And then you go out into the world, and then suddenly you start having a broad vision, and your vision opens up, and a lamp suddenly illuminates your mind, and you see a road, and you know where you are going. And I do believe that most of the texts were intuitive, and you did not realize where you are moving till the very end of the process. That's the way it was with me.
Yeah, exactly. As we talked about the 3 parts that was given as exercises in a way. Yeah, that link our immediate surroundings and goes via an object of art or architecture to a broader context. Yeah, so even if the essays and the play, they're really different, there is a common structure to these essays.
I have a loud voice as well. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering that because it's published, the texts are published in English. Do you write in English or in your mother language first and then translate, or do you think about the text in English, and how does it change, or does it?
That's an interesting question, I think. Who wants to answer?
I think I started in English because translation just, it just, you don't get the sound or the feeling of it. So for me, it was like, it was English or, nothing.
Yeah, oops. And also the fact that we have members from many language areas. So yeah, English was also the meeting language we were having. So I was also writing all the time in English myself.
And the language we were talking about our text, so it made sense that that was the writing language.
Yes, and especially because a lot of the meeting, Olga, first you first.
I just remember a novel by an Italian writer, very famous, Umberto Eco, Il nome della rosa, the name of the rose. And there, medieval monks, they all spoke Latin, right? It was an international language for them. Italian did not exist at that point in the 12th century. And for us, English was a universal language of communication. And of course, we are all quite proficient in it because part of our job, we also need to read intensively in English. And in about an hour, I will have 2 English classes with my adult students, beginners in English, and people really are keen on learning the languages to be able to communicate with the rest of the world. This is so important. Please teach your kids English or any other language, that maybe Esperanto.
Yeah, and it was very important. A very important part of our meetings was to share our texts. So we did a lot of shared reading, and that is of course difficult to do. For instance, for me, in Finnish, that would be a challenge. Yeah.
But maybe next edition we do in Latin. Yeah. Olga.
Why not?
Challenge.
Thank you. This is really great. Congratulations. It really comes across the atmosphere of freedom and intimacy in which the texts were created, and I'm particularly also glad for you that it contributes to you personally. Now, what's next? Where is the horizon for Pigeongram?
Exactly. That's a good question. Do you want to, anyone wants to answer that?
I think we're going to have a coffee tomorrow to discuss it. That is our future plan, to discuss it over coffee in Kirkenes. But at least we have, I think, or we all have agreed that we want to continue somehow, and also in dialogue with Nina and Halvor, and asking Nina and Halvor if whether we can use the name Pigeongram Collective in our future, where your response was, but you are the Pigeongram Collective. It's not something that can be passed on, and I think that was such a, there was a very trustfully and warm response that was also an inspiration for us to continue, also kind of a responsibility passed on to us, I think.
That's so nice to hear. I hope for many magazines, number 1, 2, or number 2, 3, and 4, and so on. Yeah, so let's hope for that. It has been a really great pleasure for both Halvor and me working with you. As we have told you many times, but I mean it really from my heart, it has been so inspiring to work with you all. Yeah. So I'm looking forward for more contact with you. And yeah, Marianne.
I just want to say congratulations on this beautiful publication. It was really refreshing to read this text, and very nice also for me to read the art criticism that is personal and vulnerable. And I want to say also thank you to Nina and Halvor for this work of democratizing art criticism that you've been doing. I think it's really, really important, and we can really be inspired by it and learn a lot from it. So yeah, I hope this continues, and I hope also the Pigeongram Collective continues.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Yeah, I think we are finished. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You can give the applause. Thank you so much. I feel I have to. You already mentioned this, that it says number 1 on this magazine, the first edition, and it's the same for Arctic Art newspaper. And the intention was, it's not the intention that Troms and Finnmark fylkeskommune will produce art criticism magazines, but that was our way to support. And also I have to mention the general support from Barentskult for the past 2, 3, or 10 years that gives funding for the Norwegian-Russian collaboration projects. Barentskult supports professional art projects. So we've had generous funding from them, and they were also kind to let us change the project so that it can happen during the pandemics. The part of the project that Pigeongram Collective is, and the Arctic newspaper, has also received support from Nordic Culture Fund 2 or 3 times in a row. Now this last time also for this seminar. And we also have, the title of the seminar is Backyard Residencies, Conversations in the North, that is marking a transition to a new project that is called Backyard Residencies. And that's why a lot of people from the region are here, so that we can plan residency and exchange programs for artists and critics, and we will discuss that also tomorrow. We have received short-term network funding from Nordic Culture Point. So that's also very important, that we can also administrate these projects and then channel the money to events like this. So yes, thank you all. We have a short break. Yeah. Before we move to Arctic
I
Art
take off
newspaper.
my pigeon gram hat and on my Pikene for Broen hat in that moment with two microphones. One, a short break. Yes, as you find your seats, I can just again introduce Paavo, Anastasia, and Marion. Jasmina already introduced them very nicely. So yes, then now is the launch of the beautiful Arctic Art newspaper. And I'm very excited to hear more about the process and the people. So, varsågod.
We just start like this. We just start like this. Okay. Paavo, you want to start?
No, I don't want to start. I just want to tell that we have planned nothing.
Where's the moderator?
We have planned nothing, but we've done everything. This is going to be probably the slogan of the next issue of Arctic Art newspaper, if one is coming out. I think I will let Paavo finish his coffee. So we want to have the lounge not as a formal lounge, but as a very natural conversation. And actually, if some of you had held the magazine already, or the newspaper already, it's a very fluid format between a magazine and a newspaper. You might see that there is a short interview that we presented in the beginning to kind of touch upon some of the issues of our work. So we can just, I think, we decided we would just share our processes and talk about how the production, the editorial work looked for us. And I think these were 3 different editorial strategies in a way. Each of us have different backgrounds and different amount of experience in publishing that goes from very, very, very big and profound experience. You're here with 2 magazines today, to very little experience here. Marion, would you place yourself somewhere in the middle?
I guess I have to be in the middle then.
Yeah.
Well,
but you, Anastasia, yeah, let's rank ourselves. But Anastasia, you didn't say that you're Anastasia. Maybe everyone knows. This is Anastasia. This is Paavo. This is Marion. I want to ask you a question. Maybe we should, maybe the question is, why did we choose newspaper instead of magazine? And by the way, I want to say I'm super happy to hold the finished newspaper. It's the first time I see it in its finished version, so I'm a bit emotional. It's beautiful.
Well, so you've been traveling around as well, so you haven't gotten it in Tromsø before.
Exactly.
Oh.
And thank you, Jasmina, for all the amazing work you did with this whole project and pushing us to make it really happen within 2 years and not 10 years. And thank you to all the artists also. That's your newspaper. But yeah, why newspaper and not magazine?
Well, I'm not going to answer that yet. I was just wants to comment on the time, because when I'm sort of nervous or don't know what to do, I count. And I was just checking that we had the Zoom meeting for the project in the November the 2nd of 2020, where at least I said, I probably can do it.
And I just want to comment that this was exactly like Paavo quoted now. This was exactly the same words.
Why not? I do this every 2 months anyway. So I was just, that was 584 days ago. It was 2 o'clock meeting, so it's roughly about 14,018 hours ago, which means about 841,080 minutes, or 5,046,000 seconds and a bit. So, and it's been a long time working on just on 2 dimensions, not seeing each other, just looking at screens and more screens and other screens. And
but we did, I think we did a great job in, and amusing ourselves. And
we won at Zoom, yes.
Yeah. So in turning our editorial sessions in something special.
Yeah, but why newspaper? It's another 2-dimensional thing, but of course magazines or newspapers are in 3 dimensions also. But Arctic Art Newspaper was the working title that we started in 2020, and then we had no. Yeah, and I think so sometime in the fall of 21 we kind of decided that it will not come out as a newspaper, because we were talking about some other project that had been done somewhere in Nordland, in northern Norway, where somebody had made this meta magazine and had it about like art and distributed in 40,000 copies like a newspaper to home somewhere. I also saw this on email that I just checked earlier. And I think that was, at one point, it was sort of, we were playing with the idea that we could have some kind of supplement in the local newspaper that would be going around to all homes. But then, of course, there's so many local newspapers, and I think we quite soon realized that it's probably not very viable financially in the end to print 80,000 copies, and it would be on a kind of paper that doesn't really reproduce art in a way that kind of works well, and it doesn't. Newspaper paper, what do you call it? Like offset paper is quite soft and porous, and pictures don't look too good. But yeah, we worked with. At one Zoom meeting, we were thinking of other names and possible names, and often an idea that we could just print a long list of titles and names for this publication and have it on the back cover, but then we forgot about that.
Maybe we should actually dig up this list and read it, but I haven't prepared that.
Yeah.
Maybe tonight.
Tomorrow, maybe. Yeah. Well, we have time tomorrow also to kind of do all the silly things.
I want to say that because you talked about process, that we're talking about process. Yeah, it was very new to do it for me on Zoom. This is the first time we have met in more than 3 years, I guess, in real life. But we have met so many times on Zoom, and I thought it was going to be really challenging, I have to say, and not so pleasant. But it was surprisingly pleasant. I think we learned to make this very fun, and also we had this kind of routine that I guess maybe this middle and thing works, because Anastasia would keep the time and would keep the deadlines and would keep reminding us of tasks. Like, we haven't replied to Yasmina. We have to reply to Yasmina by tomorrow. Okay, now it's like 9, we have to go, it's finished. And then Pavel would go into some very interesting monologues about various subjects that I would even call tangents, very interesting tangents, that would be actually very inspiring. So I was very inspired, and at the same time I felt like someone is keeping track of things. So I don't know what I was doing in the middle, but I was really enjoying this 2 facets of this process.
We might just briefly talk about the physical product and the object we created, whether it is a newspaper, a magazine, a journal, or you can call it anything you want.
It's Arctic Art Newspaper.
Yes, okay. But you can say Arctic Art newspaper, and then you can have an undertitle. So that works. I think a very big difference to the Pigeongram collective publication, for instance, is that we mainly worked with visual materials. So there are a lot of images, and some contributions are 90% images. And so I remember we've spent a lot of time trying to define the order. So what is, how do we do this? Because there are so many ways of displaying the content. You can do the alphabetic order, then you can do the alphabetic order the other way around, starting with Z and then with A. Then we had all kinds of, because we had, of course, to amuse ourselves in Zoom sessions, because, you know, if you have like a 3-hour-long Zoom, you have to take some fun breaks. So I think we had a lot of fun ideas, like, I don't know, well, country, that's boring, by country, by region. And I think we had this this borderless approach, and we did not want to define countries as you know, particular boxes or regions. Then we had I think colors. So we'll put yellow art next to yellow art. What else? So we had a lot of fun ideas. What we ended up doing was basically just making it an interesting visual journey for the reader. And I think Pavo did a very just an amazing job in, you know, giving it the first kick off, because we just did not know where to start. And then as soon as we had Espen's work in the beginning, it just somehow created a chain. So all the other contributions worked well together, and I'm very content with how they guide the viewer, because I'm more from the exhibition making field. So for me, creating this order was like, you know, setting up an exhibition. You want the person to look around, you want the person to walk through the pages. Then we also have some, I don't know if you noticed, but we have some dynamic components. Do you want to, you know, talk about this?
You mean the turning the page around? Yeah, and actually, I think that was an idea from Victor, from the designer.
Yeah, it's very novel concept of kind of turning the magazine 90 degrees to do some reading. Of course, it's not, but hey, yeah, we didn't want to make it too easy. We thought, yes, let's make some effort.
You should be engaged in the process.
But hey, who knows? Yeah, it's fun to see how the process kind of is experienced, because for me, I don't really remember all this fun stuff about the order, this discussing how to put it. There probably was some of it, but I was probably going on one of my tangents in my head while you were thinking about that. Because like how I remember things happening is like, yeah, I have to make some sort of preliminary suggestions of the in how these 30 odd things might progress, and I did it like, because I do this every other month with Caltion, just trying to think of, oh, where can we go next with what we got and what comes next, and I have this piece that doesn't really fit anywhere, so we'll just chuck it in, and so I came up with I remember sending like this preliminary suggestion for the order of progression. Then we just fiddled about it a little, but of course this is just because I think I do everything, and I don't really consider other people too much. And I don't.
Actually,
no,
that's
I don't
not
know this
true.
year.
That's not true. That's just your persona, but that's not how it was. But so we can sum it up that we went from an intellectual approach to an intuitive approach, no?
And of course, to notice that it's an Arctic art newspaper, but it wasn't really. It's not exclusively visual arts. There's a couple of things about that are theater and dance and performance art and
essays as well.
And but I suppose that because the open call went out through mostly like a visual arts organization, so in that way, most of the applicants were just here's my images, use them type of things, which is of course much more fun to work with than having a lot of text, because text requires more work, because you need to read it and reread it and proofread it and.
But I remember also that we had this discussion about not wanting it to be a catalog, because visual arts, when you think about that, you think maybe the first thing would be to make a kind of catalog, and also you being a museum director have this experience with making catalog, but we were really wanting to tell a story and put these works in dialogue with each other, like really to lift the works. And that's also actually why we chose not to have the glossy paper. Well, I think most of us hate glossy paper, the look and feeling of it, but also because we didn't want it to be this kind of catalog finish that you don't dare to touch and that doesn't smell good also. So we really wanted this matte paper, and that's maybe this hybrid between the newspaper. Of course, we couldn't have newspaper paper, as Paavo mentioned, for the reasons of printing pictures on it. But we wanted to kind of have this hybrid where you can interact with it. You're not too scared to touch it, to turn it, but you also respect the artworks and you present them in the best way possible.
And there is enough white space to make notes if you want to. A very important issue that is it is so big that we forgot to mention that, is that I think that like the main discussion point we had in the beginning, after everything went smooth and well, was what we want this Arctic art newspaper to tell about the art in the Arctic region, because this is, to be honest, a very ambitious task, also a very dangerous task. We wanted to avoid positioning it like an encyclopedia of Arctic art, and we actually really wanted to challenge the term of Arctic art, because all the three of us, we have different experiences in working with this region, but one thing that we agreed on was that we should challenge this concept, and that artists from the Arctic region are very much suffering under this expectations and labels from the outside world. We do have this image by Anastasia Savinova that shows a more or less, Arctic image. We actually wanted to avoid that, but it just fits so perfectly in the end. But if you look into the inside, you don't see, that much snow, mountains, and all that that artists from the Arctic region are expected to produce as art. So we just wanted to make a statement that there is not such a thing like Arctic art. There is not such a thing like, Norwegian art or Russian art or, Western art, or you can't. So this is basically a statement against labeling anything in generalized ideas. So you cannot just put a label on art, and this is bad for everyone. So you can, of course, say, yes, this artist is based in the Arctic region. So if we if we would like to find another wording, it would be Arctic-based or art newspaper presenting works by artists who are at the moment physically based within the Arctic region. So that would be a more precise description that would not fit into onto the cover.
Yeah, it would probably, short name would just be some stuff.
I think this was definitely one in our list of alternative titles. There's some stuff, some art stuff newspaper.
No, but actually, I don't think it's about even that you have to have that you have to be physically in the Arctic to be part of the magazine, but that you have to have the connection. I think that's also what we were trying to explore, right? This connection to the North, what does it mean? Because, of course, there's so much diversity, and that's what, as you said, we wanted to represent, that, you know, art in the North is not one thing, it's so many different voices, it's not just national, it's transborder, it's like, also Sapmi is represented in the newspaper. So this diversity was super important to us. But yeah, also that that everyone there is really this connection between everyone, because it's a story of also like what it means for you to be an artist in the North, you know, and that takes so many different shapes. And I mean, I think for me that was so interesting to explore the stories, how many ways you can actually be an artist or make art in this very vast region, you know.
But coming back to the name, I think that's one of the reasons that we thought to keep the word newspaper in the name, because newspaper is something that does not claim to be set in stone or definitive. It's just a slice of something for one day or one week, and I think that's also the idea that it is changing.
Do you have any questions?
Just interrupt us.
Yeah, please just take the microphone. I'm happy to give it to anyone.
Thank you so much for presenting this to us. It's really, I'm looking forward to dig into it. I hold it and turned some pages, and it looks really, really nice. Could you elaborate a little bit about the different contributions? It was an open call, wasn't it? Yeah, and you got many contributions. And what kind of contributions are there? Some more text than others, or you mentioned that some had only images. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the different contributions?
Well, yeah, was it about 120, 130, something that answered the open call? And we had some, because this was a larger project, there were some 12 or 15 different organizations that were in the discussions and talking and putting this whole thing together from across this Barents area. And yeah, and we started the kind of decisions. We had like for all the organizations or people who were representing, they like chose a couple, 3 or 5, the nominations, and which they would like to see. And so it was, we were trying to be sort of democratic, or giving it, and from those nominations then we kind of that affected had a list of some 30 or 35, which we then worked with. And of course, at this point, those organizations could also nominate like artists that had not taken part to the open call if they wanted. So we could have input in that way from. And then, of course, like we as the editorial team, we decided that we can decide to chuck some things out again if because of the size restraints, and And at that point, we also thought, oh, something that doesn't quite fit. And this, yeah, so we had a bit of editorial choice also for us. And I don't remember whether we added, well, of course, because we were also representatives, so we had also suggested some things there before that ourselves. So I don't think we added anything after that.
No, we ended up with this list of all the open call applicants and the nominations from these organizations. And then we were free to narrow down the selection to what would actually be in the newspaper. But yeah, I mean, I think that was very exciting is that I think in the open call it was quite wide what you could submit. So we did receive very, very different things. And as also Pavel said before, someone just sent pictures, almost with no title and nothing. Someone else sent maybe a long text describing their work process and pictures. Some are only text essays. We have actually a PhD thesis.
No, it's not PhD, it's like the bachelor's or
masters.
Bachelor's, I think.
Let's put in the middle, masters.
Vocational school, so like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it was like
a thesis that was submitted to us, and then we edited it to an article. So we also got this just very long pieces of text, and we have some paintings, photos of paintings. We have photographic work. We have some installations. So the texts are about art processes. For example, the thesis is about dance exploration of Sami dancing. Traditions and recreation. So this was very actually wide range of works. And yeah, from all the Scandinavian countries, plus Sapmi and Greenland, we have represented.
Yeah, Gelka Bluna is in Canada.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And although, I can't remember. And also like northern Russia, there was some, I can't remember which parts, but yeah.
And that's also what was very important in this election process, was to represent, not, as you said, make the ultimate compilation of what is the best of Arctic art, but like show all these expressions that are happening here, and diversity of places, of genders, of what is represented, of content, of media, of course. And I think that's what makes it quite an exciting publication.
Yeah, and I suppose like the whole idea behind the whole larger project being partly just to make connections, make new connections, and strengthen the old connections that we have across borders and across distances here in the scarcely populated north. So also in that way that we are kind of connecting things that are happening, connecting artists that have never heard of each other before and don't know about each other's works, and on something like that. And also then for the readers of the publication to find out new things and maybe connect with the new work. And this is probably, just general stuff that everybody thinks they are doing. So, but yeah, but I seem to have felt it important to say it aloud again.
And I actually think that the diversity concept that you also mentioned is well communicated visually, because we have, 3 different fonts here. When you, look, okay, you see that on the cover, and then if you take a look at the text, you will see 3 different fonts, and that is actually a design no-go. So you shouldn't have so many different fonts and sizes on one page. But we just said we'll do that. And also here on the back we have a small collage of different fragments that should kind of attract the viewer and make them want open the magazine. So I think that was also well developed by the designer.
Yeah, well, it's getting closer to the time when we all need to go forward in the program. There's a dinner at 5 and I had some other thought, but I think I lost it.
Some more questions?
No,
I mean, we can't.
I wouldn't
No?
say any more questions, but because Pikene and Broen are not Tromsfylke, and they are allowed to buy some sparkling wine also. So it seems that there's some poured in glasses over the
I would say we are
coffee table,
experiencing a shift of focus here.
No, because I spoke to Pikene and they said that we need to do this so that people get to.
Now it's
get
like
to the
you're
restaurant
experiencing how Zoom meetings were. This is exactly how it was with the background
Yeah.
also. And laying on the couch or on the bed and maybe
No,
pyjama pants and yeah.
I think what we kind of we did fail to have some prosecco during our meeting, so I'm glad we have some here.
We'll make it good again right
so
now.
How does it work, Francie and Astrid? Do you just go around and give glasses to people? I think that's probably going to be easier than have people run to the table, so we can raise a toast to before. After?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And if there are still questions, I mean, we are here tonight, in the evening, during dinner. We're here tomorrow, so
tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Yes, so let's just expand the Q&A session to the rest of our time together and make it informal.
But do you want to give some sort of wrapping up thing for this now, Astrid?
Can do that. Thank you so much for this. I felt you gave like a glimpse into your Zoom meetings, making this magazine. So that was a good experience to become part of that journey. Yeah, and since you didn't want to make it formal, that's I think we managed that. but no proper launch without something sparkling in your glass and something to share and celebrate the launch and that we're gathered here. So therefore, Pikene for Broen invite you all for a glass of Prosecco. And I think, Franz, there is also a non-alcohol alternative, yes, also sparkling. So please have a glass, and then after you finish your glass, I mean, you can do that while talking to this editorial team about more about the process.
It sounds like people need bubbles to talk to us. We're quite approachable, actually. Yeah. That's actually, that's a very good story that maybe Yasmina should tell, because she has been sending through her network, some underground, some overground. She has been sending these magazines all over the north, in different places in Russia, in Finland, also all over Norway, Greenland. So Yasmina has been doing a lot of post and also smuggling. Actually, this yes, we can say it.
I
just don't listen. Yasmina has been smuggling the Arctic Art newspaper.
We mean smuggling in a metaphoric sense. In a
legally,
metaphoric
legally.
sense. Aren't we all smuggling from time to time?
Isn't all language metaphorical? That's what Nietzsche said. Or wrote, actually, or triple metaphor, actually. Yeah. So I know there's at least one copy in Bergen at Textalmenningen that is available to read, and one in Oslo. I can't remember who were the people I left it with. Yeah, there's probably an office of Textalmenningen in Oslo too.
There will be some
at
Mondo Books in Tromsø, somewhere where you are.
I think I'm taking some copies to Russia, and yeah, but I think the safest option is to take a copy from the desk or from the bookshelf if you haven't yet.
If you happen to be in Kirkenes, yes,
yeah.
there's people
And
watching online.
then
So
I think if you want more copies, or you can always approach Yasmina and ask her about how to get some more for your local art space or bookstore. Thank you.
yeah, we have no idea.
Let's proceed.
More tomorrow.